Morning, sir.
This
Shall we
call is
start,
now
sir?
being recorded.
Shall we start, sir? Sir, am I audible, sir? Shall we start, sir?
Yeah, sure, ma'am.
Yes. Good morning, all. On behalf of IoT Academy, I welcome you all for the second session of National Level Faculty Development Program on Basics of Research and Funding Opportunities. Let me introduce the resource person of today's session, Dr. Sami Dubey. Dr. Sami Dubey is working with Acropolis Institute of Management Studies and Research, Indore, as an associate professor. He is a postgraduate in Commerce and Management from Devi Ahilya Vishwavidyalaya, Indore. He is having 17 years of academic and 4 years of corporate experience. He has worked for Worthman Politics Limited, Indore Institute of Management and Research, and IPS Academy, Indore. At present, he is having more than 30 national and international publications in research journals and conference proceedings. Dr. Dubey has also co-authored a book named Banking Law and Practice in India. He is a member of Madhya Pradesh Economic Association and Research Foundation of India. He has also been invited as a speaker by UGC HRD Center for delivering sessions on ICT tools and research methodology. With this, I hand over the session to Dr. Sami. So, sir, we are not able to hear you, sir. I think you are in mute.
Am I audible now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. So, first of all, I would like to say thanks to IoT Academy for giving me such an opportunity, and to all the participants as well, that they have shown interest in this topic, which is of the current use right now. So we shall be starting with. Uh, just a second. Let me share. Okay. Here. I believe now everybody can see the presentation.
So your slides are visible, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. So, okay. So today we are going to discuss about the basics of research and best practices that we should use while doing our researches. So let us start off with a little bit or a small discussion on some pre-research questions. These are really very important because these are the questions which actually decide the whole direction of our research. The very first question is why we are doing a research. So definitely they are having certain professional requirements due to which the person has to conduct the research or to go through that complete PhD procedure also. So other than this, definitely there are certain interests. People are interested in playing with the data, and this is of their interest. So that this is also one of the reasons why they are interested in research. And nowadays there is a new branch has opened up in the name of data science, in which the data scientists or the people who are interested in playing with data, they are very much required. And lot of things which are over there in the data science, as far as my knowledge and information is concerned, I believe you people would also have gone through all those things, that research methodology used to play the role of the basics for data science. The very basic things which are being used in the data science are regressions. It starts from regression. There are other things as well, like t-test, also there t-test or ANOVA also, but lot of things depend upon regression as well. So somehow the new branches which are opening in the research are data science as well. Then the second one is who are the beneficiaries. So whether the publisher is a beneficiary, in case publisher is the beneficiary, we have to be very much focused on what exactly is the publisher requiring. Then public at large, if public at large is the beneficiary, then definitely in our research we need to address the public, our topic, right from the topic to the research methodology to the objectives to the results, all have to be in the interest of public only. And if the research is being conducted or is being funded by a specific organization, then definitely they would be having their own objectives. So we'll have to work as per the objectives or as per the directions given to us by that specific organization. Then there comes what are the major issues to be addressed. Then once again, whether there is any debate or discussion or range of viewpoints. So there are three different things. Debate is whether we have to prove a viewpoint or a specific opinion correct, or whether it is correct or incorrect. So this is one of the reasons. Then whether there is any discussion. In debate, definitely we'll have to either prove something right or prove something wrong. However, in discussion, we generally use to carry out a solution for certain problems also. So whether it is a debate, whether it is debate based on any debate, any discussion, or range of viewpoints where we are only collecting different viewpoints, and we are on the basis of those viewpoints, we might be making our own viewpoint, or we are only telling the people about the viewpoints of different people. Then there comes next is where is the usage of research. So whether the research is being used at a local level, at a national level, or an international level. International researchers could have included the data or the people from two or more than two countries. The national at national level, maximum of the researches that we are conducting in for some last previous years or so are of national interest. So definitely the usage of research could be at a national level, and once again, there are definitely local organizations, local bodies as well, which used to which motivate the researcher to do research on some local, on some local means like the municipal corporation level. If in case it is for policy formulation also, or for the college-going students, or for the school-going students, or for teachers. So there are lots of avenues available. Once again, sorry. Once again, this will definitely give us a direction to our research where we are heading to. Then when is the research relevant? So the time frame or the range. In general, definitely we shall be discussing is in the best practices as well. But generally what we do is we do not specifically mention a time frame until and unless we are doing a research on a specific on happening of a specific event, or we are just you can say that we are giving importance to certain events, implementation of certain policy, or some specific event is being highlighted. Until and unless we have any such thing, we do not generally uh, write down a time frame in our research. So when is the research relevant? Then the last one comes is how to conduct the research. So what exactly is the research process? How we are going to conduct? So depending upon all these questions, we will have to decide how we are going to conduct the research. So whether we shall be using primary data or we shall be using secondary data, we shall be using, like, even if it is primary data, we shall only be with the help of observation only we shall be collecting the data, or we shall be using questionnaire, all these kind of things. So our direction of our research shall be from these questions only. Then there comes the next one is who are the stakeholders for research. The researcher is the very first stakeholder, and his or her stake is in the degree. If he or she is doing the research for the sake of money, you are helping someone in writing the papers, and he or she or the interested person is giving you the money, then definitely money could be of the interest. Promotion definitely is of the interest. We are getting certain API score, and the last one is peace of mind. If a question is disturbing you regularly and you are on the basis of data, on the basis of certain facts and figures, you are finding the answer to that question, then definitely you will get a peace of mind. Then for the supervisor stake is definitely social and professional status, because number of persons who have completed their thesis under me or under anyone else, it is a matter of professional and social status in teaching fraternity. Once again, supervisor could also have got certain money, like more specifically in the funded projects also, or certain, once again, the peace of mind. Then for the organizations take it, the more researches are being conducted in an organization, its team, its esteem, its name, its the grants being awarded to the organization. All these things used to increase, and it definitely all these things used to increase the name and fame of the organization. Understanding of a specific subject or the understanding of the organization, it also comes out. Then the readers. So there are certain readers who just for the sake of knowledge, they used to read the researches, then solutions. Some certain people can get the solution of the problems, and once again, if you are getting the solution for the problem, you will once again getting the peace of mind. The government's take is feedback on policies. Almost all policies, government used to take feedback, and more feedback they get from the non-government organizations or some non-connected or some untraditional researchers or some these kind of research organizations also. They get a better feedback. They get a virgin feedback, we can say, and on the basis of this feedback, they generally used to alter their policies or modify them. And then opinion of the public. So government also, for the sake of opinion of public, they used to conduct the research. Then influencers, this is one of the latest things that I have added to this. Influencers are for making trends. They also do a lot of research about. I believe you people can see a lot of research being done, and the result on your social media channels like Instagram or so. So this is once again the influencer. They also have to conduct research about what exactly they are putting in front of the public, so that people will follow them more and more. Then the general public over, once again, their general public used to make improve decisions, like in case of you are making any decision for investment or for savings or for these kind of decisions, or the consumer, the researches in consumer affairs, the consumer satisfaction policies also, or marketing strategies, the general public used to make their an improved decision. Then a modified behavior of the people used to come out, and once again the ways of living can also be modified. Then there comes the meaning of research. So meaning of research is basically, there is a small question in front of you people. We are having three different situations. The first situation is a person has prepared a paper on computer usage in secondary schools after reading literature on the subject available in his university library. So this is the first situation. The second one is the person has researched and completed a document which gives information about the age of his students, their results, and these kind of things, and it is specifically within the district office. Then the third situation is participated in a workshop on curriculum development and prepared what the person calls a report on the curriculum of engineering. So one thing which I would like to ask you people is that which do you think is a research from all these three? If I can get some reply in the chat box, the situation one, situation two, or situation three, which is a research we can call? Any answer? Or you can unmute yourself as well for answering. What you people think is research? The first situation is a research, the second situation is a research, or the third situation is a research? I think the audience is open to, the chat box is open to all the audience.
Yes, sir.
Okay. If I can get
Unmute and
some
also
response.
can also unmute and speak, sir.
Yeah, of course. If you want to speak, you can unmute yourself. Third choice. Okay. If somebody has participated in a workshop on curriculum development and prepared what a person calls a report on the curriculum of engineers. Okay. Any other answer? Research is our findings on others' earth. Okay. I just asked one thing, that there are three situations in front of you. Situation number one, where a person has prepared a paper on computer usage in secondary schools of a specific university library from the literature available in the specific library. The second one is the person has researched and completed some information about the details of the students of a specific district, and the third one is a report on the curriculum for engineers after attending a workshop. So whether situation 1, situation 2, or situation 3, which one is we shall call a research out of these three only? So the only answer which I have got from about my question is the third choice. Okay. Anyone else would like to contribute something? The first one is a research. Okay. Either I have asked too hard questions. I feel that either the questions are a little bit, I need to modify the questions, I think. Okay. So let me explain only. None of these three situations is a research. We won't call it a research. The first one is because it is on the basis of literature available in a specific library only. Hence, the first one is not a research. The second one is since it is restricted to a specific district, and this is only an information about the age of students, their results, uh, their parents' income, and so this shall be a report. It shall not be research because we are not drawing out any result out of it. So until and unless some result is being drawn, it cannot be research. And once again, if someone is participating in a workshop and preparing a report on the curriculum for engineers, once again, that shall not be a research. So what exactly shall be a research? So the research shall be like it is a movement from known to unknown. Generally, what happens is that we used to make four different quadrants of the known things and unknown things. So whenever we voyage into a thing, whenever we voyage into a quadrant where we do not know what we do not know, and we find out, accidentally we get something, and when we find out, then that is known as a research. Okay, so that is basically a research. So this is the meaning of research. Then there are different types of research. So the types of research include like descriptive and analytical research, applied and fundamental research, quantitative and qualitative research, and there are some other types as well. So let us just discuss them in brief. The descriptive research, it includes the surveys and fact-finding inquiries of different kinds. The main purpose of descriptive research is the description of the state of affairs, whatever it exists. So the descriptive research shall only be describing whatever has been happened in the phenomena. Ex post facto research for descriptive research is also used, and the main characteristics of this method is that the researcher has no control over the variables. He cannot do anything. He can only report whatever has happened or whatever is happening. So that is what is known as a descriptive research. And in analytical research, on otherwise than descriptive research, in analytical research, the researcher has to use the facts for drawing out certain information or the available information to draw out certain kind of results and analyze them to make a critical evaluation of the whatever available facts or whatever the situation is. Then the second one comes applied and fundamental research. So the research can once again be divided into this can also be divided into as an action research or the fundamental research. The applied research more specifically aims at finding a solution for an immediate problem which is being faced by either a society or an individual or a business organization, whereas the fundamental research is mainly concerned with generalization and with the formulation of a theory. That is what is known as fundamental research. Let us take an example. Making of the aeroplane is known as the fundamental research, and flying of the aeroplane, how to fly an aeroplane, that is an applied research. So now the next one is quantitative research and qualitative research. Quantitative research is something which is based on data only, which are applicable. This type of research is applicable to the phenomena which are expressed in the terms of quantity. Qualitative research, on the other hand, is concerned more specifically with the qualitative phenomena, which are related to or involving quality, like if whether the interest of some of certain person, then the perception or the experience of certain person or so, these kind of things are being used in qualitative research. Then definitely we are having some other types of research as well. So the one time and longitudinal research, one time research is the research which is being conducted in a specific time frame. However, longitudinal research is the one which is conducted over a specific time frame, or two or more than two time frames could have been included. Then field and laboratory or simulation. So laboratory research is known as simulation research as well. The field research is where we are conducting the surveys and we are collecting data from the field. Laboratory is where the variables are being conducted by where the variables are being controlled by the researcher, and the deviation in the independent variable is being generally observed on the dependent variable. So this is known as a laboratory research. And since all different types of conditions, all the environment is being created by the researcher, it is also called a simulation research. Then there comes exploratory research and historical research. Exploratory research is something which is in which you are proposing a new concept. That is known as an exploratory research. The thing which has not yet been found out by anybody else, that is known as an exploratory research. And in historical research, we used to go through all the historical documents, and then we make an opinion on the basis of the historical document. That is known as an historical research. Then there comes research approaches. Whenever we conduct research, we are having two different types of research approaches: quantitative approach and qualitative approach. So these there are two different types of these are two different types of approaches. So the quantitative approach and the quantitative approach, it involves generation of data. Wherever we can generate the data, we can use a quantitative approach. It is subject to rigorous quantitative analysis. You will find number of different kinds of data, or you are finding this collection of data. So the questionnaires that you have collected, the data that you have collected, that is known as the quantitative approach. So like inferential researches, like experimental researches, and the simulation researches, all these are definitely part of this quantitative research. So these are three different things. Inferential approach is it actually depends on the data. What are you are inferring from the data, from the characteristics or relationships of the population, or whatever the data you have collected. So that is known as inferential research. Then experimental research is definitely, it is a causal type of research where the cause of an independent variable can be seen on the dependent variable. So that is experimental research. And simulation is where we are making a specific type of environment, and then the independent variables are being manipulated. The researcher used to manipulate the independent variable and check its effect on the dependent variable. So that is simulative research. Then qualitative approach is where you are collecting all the perceptions, you are collecting the data related to attitudes, about the opinion, about the behavior of a specific person. So that kind of research is known as a qualitative research. Qualitative research actually being conducted in a situation where the researchers' insights, researchers' impressions are being used. So the research, actually this kind of research generates results either in non-quantitative form or in the form which are not easily subjected to those kind of rigorous quantitative analysis which the quantitative approach you can be. So generally the techniques are focus group interviews. Those are the techniques. Then the projective techniques, then in-depth interviews. These kind of things are used in the qualitative research, the qualitative approach to the research. Then what are the characteristics of a good research? So there are different characteristics. The good research is systematic. It should be logical. One should have to give some logic. It must be empirical and replicable in nature. Empirical means the research can be experimented, or sorry, can be experienced. People can give their can give their feedback, can give their experience on the very same thing. Then it should be replicable in nature. That is once again a good research, and it can accept the critical assumptions. What exactly are the criticisms, or what exactly are the limitations to the research? That can also be acceptable. Now, let us come to what exactly is the research process. So the research process is in front of you people. This research process, I do not say that it is all inclusive process, because there are certain authors we have who have made a different kind of flow chart as well, in which they have the more or less the concept is very same, but there are certain things which are being different from them. So, like this data collection, certain people think that first we need to that like in this flowchart you won't find the place for your pilot survey. However, certain authors have included pilot survey in the research process as well. That has not been included in this flowchart. But let us go through the flowchart. The concept is more or less the very same thing. The research problem used to arise from where we used to get the research problem. So either it is from the professional experience. Whatever I am telling you, these are not. This is once again and not an all-inclusive list. But one thing which I would like to say is that this is the basic thing from where these are the basic sources from where we can get the research problem. However, in our environment in which we are doing research, what happens is we used to get the research problems predefined from the research degree committee or from the guides or so. So it once again it depends upon the interest of the guides. It depends upon the interest of the people who are sitting in the RDC. No doubt the researcher's interest is also important, is also equally important, but it is influenced by these things as well. So the research problem we used to get either from the professional experience. The researcher is in himself or herself is a professional, and out of their experience they used to get a research problem. Like if somebody is a chartered accountant or a tax consultant, he or she could have got a research problem in taxation issues itself, from the behavior of the taxpayers, or how much information they used to provide to the taxpayers also. So these kind of things can be there. Then there could be certain burning questions, the literature that we used to refer. There could be professional meetings. The researcher can be a member of such a certain professional group also, and the professional meetings, out of these professional meetings, he or she can get certain research problems, or out of the discussions either with the guide or the professionals who are actually working in the field. So the discussions with these people can also get you a research problem. Then there are three different types of literature that after getting the research problem we used to we review the literature available on that specific problem or related to that subject. So there are three different types of literature: primary literature, secondary literature, and tertiary literature. The primary literature is this one is the original research. It is the research in which this kind of literature you will find from the research organizations. You will find from the if some laboratory is conducting some kind of research, if some researcher is already in the mid of his or her research, and you can get certain information from that, or the research which is unpublished as of now, you can get some you can refer to that as well. That is known as the primary literature, and this primary literature is the most authentic research, is the most authentic literature. So the examples are like the original research published by the articles in peer-reviewed journals, like dissertations, technical reports, or some conference proceedings. So you can get the literature from there as well. The secondary literature is like books and literature review articles, and the information sources are like secondary. Hence, you have to believe, you have to put your faith on the books or the literature review articles. You get the articles from very esteemed and very reputed journals only. And the tertiary literature we used to get from textbooks, from dictionaries, from encyclopedias, from handbooks also. But one thing which generally people used to do is people used to Google something, and the very famous resource for a lot of people is generally Wikipedia. We must avoid Wikipedia as much as you can. We do not take information from the Wikipedia because it is open source, open editable source. So open editable source means anybody can write anything on it. It might be correct or might be incorrect, but it is not being like there is Wikipedia is not actually responsible for if any kind of fact is being distorted or misrepresented in Wikipedia. So that is that must be avoided as much as possible. But definitely there is some importance of Wikipedia. We shall discuss it later on. How exactly can Wikipedia play an important role in our research as well. So the preparation of research design, there are three different types of research designs available: exploratory research design, descriptive and diagnostic research design, and experimental or hypothesis testing design. The very first one is the exploratory research design. In exploratory research design, what happens is generally we are exploring something new. You are the topic which has not yet been explored or not yet been researched upon. That is what we used to do. So while you are exploring a new topic, what happens is you have to make the research design as much open as possible. That is what exactly need to be done. So the research design should be open. Open means it should be very general type of things should be used. Like you cannot say a very specific type of questionnaire you will use for collection of data. It may be possible that you will require a technique of observation. You might be reviewing different videos for collection of the data. You might have to collect the data with the help of questionnaire. It is a new thing. So when with the help as you are going through the research, you might have to apply new tools to the research. And this is the reason why the research design has to be not only very open but very dynamic as well. It should contain all the primary, secondary source of data and whatever you can maximum things that we can be included. So that kind of things has to be done. You might have to go for experiments. You might have to go for different things. So this is one of the reasons why the exploratory research design has to be very open. It has to be very general. Then the second one is descriptive and diagnostic research design. The descriptive research design, the descriptive research studies are the studies which are concerned with describing the characteristics of a specific particular individual or a group of individuals or a specific phenomena. Whereas the diagnostic research, it is basically for determining the frequency with which some phenomena is happening. That is what is known as a diagnostic research. Okay, and once again, the cause and effect relationship is also is also a part of this diagnostic research only. So the rate of change, the pace of change of a specific variable with respect to the other variable, that is once again shall be a diagnostic research. So the studies conducted, the studies concerning whether the certain variables are associated like are with the other variables or not. So these are diagnostic researches. So the diagnostic research design, where what should have been done is the research design. We should clearly define different variables, our independent set of variables, our dependent set of variables, the tools that shall be used for finding out or establishing the relationship between these two different types of variables. All these things have to be very clearly defined. And the third one is the research design in case of hypothesis testing research design. The hypothesis testing research study, generally we used to take these kind of researches only. These are also known as experimental studies or experimental researches. These are the researches where the researcher used to test the hypothesis of causal relationship between the variables. So the first type of one type of variable as well as the other type of variables. These type of studies used to require procedures that will not only reduce the bias and increase the reliability, but these researches also permit drawing inferences from the causality, from the cause and effect relationship. So usually the experiments meet these kind of requirements. Hence, we also call it as experimental studies. Experimental studies. So these are the preparation. These are the research designs. So these are three different research designs which we need to apply. Then determination of the sample design. So the sample design are basically two different types of sample designs are there: probabilistic sampling and non-probabilistic sampling. Probabilistic sampling is the one in which by any means all the specified variables or all the specified units in our universe, they have somehow the equal opportunity at either in common or at different levels. They have equal opportunity of getting selected. So where all the sample units, all whatever sample you draw, even if you draw different set of samples from the very same population, you will find the very same result out of all these things. So the probabilistic sampling designs are of two different types: simple random sampling and complex random sampling. However, non-probabilistic sampling design is something which is in which each unit of the universe cannot be included in the sample, because what happens, like if you are the one is convenience sampling, the judgment sampling, quota sampling, and snowball sampling. So like if you are doing a research on the uh, if you are doing a research on the cardiologist, then all the cardiologists shall be included in the universe. But it is very difficult for you to approach each and every cardiologist, or to approach even 10% or 5% of the cardiologists as well. So convenience sampling is or the non-probabilistic sampling is that type of sampling in which what happens is you used to approach the people, or you approach the units which are in your reach. So you used to contact those units, and you take information from them, you collect the data whatever you require, and then you conduct your research. So that is convenience sampling or judgment sampling or quota sampling or snowball sampling. Snowball sampling is something where what happens is you used to reach, or you used to find out a person who is of your unit, who is of your who is important for your research purpose, or he or she is the can be selected as one of the units for your sample or as your sample. Then you ask that person only that how we can find out the same person like you. If you are not aware, then we used to find out where, then we used to there are radiologists, the doctors who used to cure the cancer. So they used to give the chemotherapy, or they used to take care of the cancer patients. So there are very limited chemotherapists or radiologists. So what happens is we used to ask the doctor to give our reference to the other person, that a researcher shall come to you, shall collect the data, and they are working on this or and that research. So that is what is known as snowball sampling, in which the people used to join with the help of reference of one another. Then what we do is, the next step is we used to collect the data or execution of the project. So when we used to collect the data, there are two different types of data: primary data and secondary data. Primary data is the data which you are collecting from for the very first time. We can use different types of or different techniques for collecting this data. The very first is interview technique, in which you use to make an interview. It can be an audio interview with the help of telephone, it can be a video interview, it can be a recorded interview, it can be a non-recorded interview, but that is an interview. Then there comes a questionnaire. In general, we all are aware of it. Questionnaire, it contains number of questions, it contains all dependent variables depending upon what kind of research you are conducting. So the questionnaire in which the researcher used to reply, and there the third one is the schedule, in which what happens in case you are collecting data from the respondent, which may not be responding you, or they may be responding, or they may not be understanding the research properly. In that case, what we used to do is we ask them the questions and they answer, and that answer of that question is being recorded by the researcher himself, herself, or by his or her representative. So that is what is known as a schedule. Some people used to call it. And the last one is observation. This is once again a very important method. However, it is not very authentic, but once again, observation is the purest form of collecting primary data. You are observing the phenomena by yourself. Until and unless there is something which is in the form of data, or in the form of number. Otherwise, if you are observing something, definitely the opinion of research or the observation of the research is the best thing that can be collected. Then the secondary data can be collected. Secondary data is basically the data which has already been in the public domain. So these data, we used to collect the data from the reports, like the annual reports of the companies, or from the records of government departments which are already available on the website, on their website. From the website, the blogs, from the organizational websites, from the websites of different communities. So we used to collect secondary data from there. Then there are published researches as well. So you can collect the data from published researches. So this is secondary data. Then what we do is we analyze the data. It starts from editing the data. We used to refine, because it may be possible that everybody might not have given you the correct answer. At present, I do not have that data set right now, but I would have. Unfortunately, I'm unable to show you that specific data set, but I got a data set in which what happened was there was a study on the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe women, pregnant women, and the research was something. The research was on the government scheme on in which the uh, government used to provide the nutritional diet to the pregnant women. So in which what happens is that when we collected the data, or when the data came to us, when we were refining the data, we got an observation, we got a record was like that, in which the age of lady was something 26, 27 years, and she was from the rural background, and she was already having some 11 children, and she was pregnant once again. So this kind of data may also come in certain cases. Definitely that data was not at all included in our research, but that kind of data also used to come. So what we need to do is we need to edit and refine the data. Then we code the data either in Excel or in SPSS or in some other software if you wish to. So we used to code the data, then we classify the data in under different heads, and then we used to do is tabulation. So then we tabulate the data, and we shall be uh, like on the basis of the tabulation only, we shall be representing, or we shall be presenting the data for the public or the stakeholder. Then there are hypothesis testing. You might be having certain kind of hypothesis and opinion about the data, what could be the result, and we call it a null hypothesis. We call it a hypothesis. We used to frame two different types of hypotheses, that are null hypothesis and alternate hypothesis. Null hypothesis is something in which we generally used to say that nothing is being happening, or there is no specific difference, or there is no specific effect of one variable on the other. So that is a null hypothesis. There are two different types of tests which are basically used, like the parametric test, and the second one is non-parametric test. The parametric tests are those in which in which we collect a lot of data, and the data which can the data only can be used for these kind of hypothesis, for testing of these kind of hypothesis. So there can be like t-test. There are three different types of t-test: independent sample t-test, two sample t-test, and paired sample t-test. Then f-test, once again it is ANOVA. Z-test is once again a t-test of larger data. So while you are using the software, you will find that both the tests are one and same only. Then non-parametric tests, once again there are non-parametric tests. Non-parametric tests are like chi-square, Wilcoxon, Mann-Whitney U-test, and Crystal Wallace test. These tests are basically conducted on non-parametric data. Non-parametric data means it is mostly conducted on the qualitative data, in which you are more specifically you are working either on the perceptions, on the experience of the people, and the data which cannot be converted into or the observations which cannot be converted into data. If it is converted into data and can be applied either mean or other different variable or other different tests, then it shall be a parametric test only. So these are parametric and non-parametric, two different types of tests. In general, what we try to do is try to convert as much observations as possible into data, so that we can apply some parametric test. So once we apply the parametric test, we used to get better and more authentic results. Then generalization and report writing. This is almost the last step of our research, in which we generalize, in which we interpret whatever we have analyzed and generalize the very same thing on our population. And the last one is reporting. Once again, the reporting needs to be done as per the format, whatever is being required and being suggested either by the guide or the person to whom, or the organization to whom you are submitting the report, that format needs to be followed. So this is where we have completed our research process. Then there comes some problems which generally researchers used to encounter in India. So there are different problems which generally researchers used to encounter, like the lack of scientific training. Nowadays, say like for the last 4 5 years, more specifically for this COVID time, that now the scientific training has improved a lot, but otherwise there is a lack of, even today as well, there is a lack of scientific training in the methodology of research. This is one of the major problems, and effort should be made to provide short duration intensive courses for meeting these kind of requirements. Then there is insufficient uh, there is insufficient interaction between the university research departments and the business establishments or the government departments or the research institutions. So what happens is that the universities used to nowadays, after making the NAC compulsory or mandatory, now after making the NAC compulsory, now what is happening is people or the university departments are tying their hands or holding the hands of the business establishment as well for researchers. But earlier, the researches being conducted in the universities, they were far from the what exactly is the requirement of the industry. Then most of the business units in our country do not have confidence in the material supplied by them to the researcher, or whether they shall not be misusing. They do not have confidence that the researcher will not be misusing the data whatever they are providing. Then the research studies are, some of the research studies are overlapping as well. The same type of study is being conducted at different places with the very same terms and conditions. Then once again, for the purpose of research, now the University Grants Commission and other apex organizations are definitely doing good. But otherwise, earlier there was not a specific code of conduct for the researchers, for the inter-university and the interdepartmental issues also used to they also used to hamper the researchers a lot. So there is no need to develop a code of conduct as well. So this was all about the basics of research. Now let us discuss a little bit about the best practices of research as well. So let us start from the research question. The research, what exactly should have in a good research question? So the good research question are definitely the research questions which are, the very first thing is it must be researchable. It should open the door of other areas of research and inquiry, and these used to begin with like how, why, what, and which. So the research questions which used to open the avenues of research, which used to answer different aspects of the research as well. Like there is a test for which the research questions must pass, and this is one of the basic things which can be used for judging whether the research question is good or not is so what test. So what tests are, if the research problem is such that it is of the interest of people, then definitely when you are asking a question that if a hypothesis is being rejected or if a hypothesis is being accepted, so what will happen if a specific hypothesis is accepted or is rejected. Then in that case, if the research objective or the research is such that, or the research problem is such that it is able to answer that it is going to hamper or it is going to affect the life of people at large, it is going to affect it is going to affect the policies, it is going to affect their daily routine of the people, or something, that kind of thing which is going to affect the people at large, then that can be a good research question, rather than if it is unable to pass the so what test. Then there comes the elements of a good research title. So there are different like good title and poor title. We have divided into two different parts. The good title is one which can be once again what what I would like to say over here is that this is not an all-inclusive list. There could be topics which are of say more than this specified range, but in general, what we have found and we have prepared this list, we have prepared this comparison. It is based it in itself. It is based on a research that what exactly is a good title, what exactly is a poor title. So the titles of say peer-reviewed journals, the titles of say like UGC care listed journals and the titles of ABDC journals and the titles of Scopus Index journals, they have been compared with, and then this information has been gathered. So the length of a good title should be between 10 to 15 words or 31 to 40 characters. If some word is very large, you can have more than 40 characters as well. But generally the poor titles are where in title only you are expressing each and everything, or the title is very long. Then that cannot be a good title. Then there should be commas, colons, or semicolons wherever it is required. Then the keywords should be used as much as possible in the title. There should be no abbreviations. There should be no jargons. There should be no humor. The geographic location. One thing in the researches which are being conducted by the students of geography only, they have to mention that in which geographical location that this research has been conducted. So this specific point, geographical location, this is not for the researchers of geography, but for the other people who are in psychology, or who are into like the marketing research or the research in finance. These kind of researches, there is no need to indicate the geographical location. Then grammar and spelling should be correct. Then the journal guidelines must be followed, and it should clearly state the point of the article. So these are the practices for a good title. Then this is how this is where I told you earlier that how the Wikipedia can be used. So Wikipedia can be used for background reading. One can get some insight of the topic from Wikipedia. So as a starting point, we can use Wikipedia. And the second thing is the finding sources. So rather than reading whatever is there in the Wikipedia, what we need to do is, there are lots of references in the Wikipedia. So what you need to do is, you need to check those references. If those references are from certain very reputed journals or some very good articles in some reputed newspapers or so, in that case, what you can do is, rather than going through whatever has been written in the Wikipedia, the matter that you are collecting from there, what you can do is, you can use those references. You should go to those references and collect your information, collect your data, collect the matter from those references only, rather than collecting the information from Wikipedia. So if, and once again, that also can be done only if that is of a good repute. Then also we need to do that. So you can Google it out. You can get it from some library databases. You can get it. You can Google it out. There are different subscriptions of Endless or EBSCO host, or those kind of things are also there. So one can get the data, or one can get the full details or the full text from there as well. So this was about the background reading. Then there are certain examples of hypotheses in which we have just tried to find out the good hypothesis and bad hypothesis. So we have taken certain examples of good and bad hypothesis, like plants will grow taller when with Miracle Grow. Miracle Grow is basically, it is a compound which is being given to the plant. In case it is given to the plant, the plant used to grow longer. This was basically the commitment of the producer. So the hypothesis was plant will grow taller, and the bad hypothesis, plant will grow better. So better and taller are these two different words. We must have to select the word with very precaution. But what exactly we are like, grow better and grow taller. So grow taller, actually it indicates the length of the plant. However, grow better, it does not indicate on which criteria we are judging the plant or the product that we are using. Then girls will score higher in math test than boys. This is once again a good hypothesis. Girls are smarter than boys. This is second. This is a bad hypothesis, or should not use. Rather than bad, it is like these kind of hypotheses we should not use. Then hermit crabs like colorful shells. or hermit crabs choose colorful shells over non-colored shells. So these are different hypotheses. There are other cause and effect relationship or cause and effect hypothesis as well. So the cause and effect hypothesis are heat will cause metal to expand. So the cause will be heat and the effect on expansion. Similarly, in the last one, a ball that is kicked with more force will fly farther. So the force of kick and the how far the ball flies. This once again are the cause and effect relationships. So the hypothesis must contain the cause and effect relationship or that variable which we are going to use, and these variables should be identified clearly from the hypothesis. Now, in case I believe that uh, I have met my time. In case if somebody is having any kind of uh, question or any kind of doubt, you can ask me. There is a question
Session is
like
open for
there is a question
discussion
like
now.
there is a question I can see in the chat box. Give a specific example
Please
for
give me a specific example for Z or F test
Z
in
or F
case of science.
in case of science subject. Like what happens in case of Z and T? Basically, Z and T are the very same test. Comparison of comparison of averages. This is what happens in T test or Z test. Only difference is T test is used on small samples and Z test is used on large samples. Now, once again, there is a controversy on small samples and large samples as well. Theoretically, when you refer certain books with certain textbooks, you will find that 30 sample size is being considered as the small sample size. More than 30 samples are being considered as large sample size. However, there are different researches in which there are different opinions about this, because the researches there are established they are the established guides, the established researchers. What they have done is like 1% of the population can be a sufficient sample. That people also use to take. There are different softwares are also used. There are different softwares are also used for specific this sample for judging this specific sample size. So T test and Z test. Now what happens is when we are using the software like SPSS, in that case T or Z test. So you won't find a Z test over there, because T test, the formula for T test and Z test is the very same. So this is one of the reasons why you won't find Z test anymore. Now, if there are two variables, in that case, we will use T test, and if there are more than two variables, in that case, we shall be using F test, or we also used to call it ANOVA. In case of science subjects, you want some specific example from science subject. So in science subjects, like if there are two different variables, or if there are two different characteristics that you are observing or you are comparing, in that case we used to call it a T test. Like let me give you an example from some very general thing, or like I am from management, so I used to give a lot of examples from management itself. Like if you are comparing two different data sets, or if you are comparing two different types of banks, like public sector banks and private sector banks, it will be like T test. Once again, yes, let me give you an example. A very good research I came through, and that research was a product was developed. It was an aloe vera. What generally used to say is it is a paisam containing aloe vera apart from other ingredients. So what happened that researcher has compared the taste of that paisam before adding aloe vera and after adding aloe vera, and the shelf life of the product, and there are different things over there. So this is an example of paired T test, in which the very same sample is being used, but that very same sample group is being used at two different time frames. First, before using or before adding aloe vera to that paisam, and then after adding aloe vera to the paisa. So this is a paired t-test. So this is the example of paired t-test. But in case if there are three different type of variables, like once again, if I am taking the example from finance background, once again, if there are three different types of banks, nationalized banks, private sector banks, and foreign banks, if you are comparing these three different types of variables, in that case, that shall be an F test. Or if you are comparing the experience, if we are comparing the perceptions of customers, perceptions of employees on the basis of their age groups, and you have divided age groups into more than two groups, ages into more than two groups, then that shall be an F test or ANOVA. Then another example for null hypothesis and alternative. Whether the first question is answered, I feel that the first question is answered. The second question is example for null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. Definitely, there are two different approaches for formulating null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. The traditional approach, or the earlier times that we used to make a hypothesis, is there are two different variables, and what we used to say is there is no significant difference between the observations or the data of these two variables. This is what used to say, that the example that I have just taken, that adding aloe vera to that phytum, the example, the null hypothesis would be there is no significant difference in the shelf life of the phytum after adding aloe vera to it. So that shall be a null hypothesis. Traditionally, it was a null hypothesis. Nowadays, what is happening is that people, and the alternative hypothesis is there is a significant difference in the shelf life of phytum after adding aloe vera to it. So this is the example of traditional null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. But if nowadays what is happening is rather than giving this null hypothesis, people or the researchers are now using, they are not using this word, there is no significant difference. What are they using is, now they are making positive hypothesis rather than a negative hypothesis. Null hypothesis, earlier it was considered as a negative hypothesis is a null hypothesis. But null hypothesis is where you are saying that there is no significant difference or there is no significant effect. So when in a positive sense, when we used to say that the shelf life of phytum will remain same even after adding aloe vera to it, that is a positive statement for hypothesis. This shall be a positive statement for the hypothesis. Nowadays, there are certain people who are using these kind of statements as well.
Nanomaterials also include in this category, sir.
In which category, if you can say?
The man has posted, sir.
Okay, yeah.
Are nanomaterials also included in this category?
So whether it is a question or it is a suggestion or it is an information.
It's a question.
It is a
ZRF.
okay. So nano materials are also included in this category. Means if the participant can please let me know, means in this category means what exactly you want to say. This is
ZRF test.
In okay, in F test. Okay, in F test or Z test, whether nanomaterials are included in this category or not. So actually what happens is, in case of nanomaterials, if you are comparing two different things, definitely t test shall be there. If you are comparing three different samples or three different if you are comparing three different variables, if you are comparing three different sets of nanomaterial or combination of certain materials or certain specific material, or you are making a specific combination. So combination 1, combination 2 and combination 3. Now you are comparing the characteristics of combination 1, combination 2, combination 3. Suppose earlier I was a little bit into science, but let me take a specific, very small example. Out of my information, my knowledge, I am taking an example. If suppose you have made a combination of you have made a compound by adding three different types of metals, and these three different types of metals are being these metals or whatever the metals may be. It can be two metals, it can be three metals, whatever the number of metals are there. If you are making a compound by adding different quantities of two different metals, and then you are calculating the ductile strength of that specific material or the material that you have formed. In that case, if there are three different combinations of the two metals, in that case we shall be using an F test. If there are only two different combinations of that material of those two metals, in that case we shall be using a T test. But once again, the characteristics, if you are working on the ductile strength of or the tensile strength of that material, in that case, for ductile strength, you will have to use T test. Then for tensile strength, you will have to use T test.
So parametric and non-parametric test, could you please explain in brief, sir?
Sure, why not? So the parametric tests are basically those tests in which what happens is there is data, and the data is of importance. Whenever you are calculating any mean, or you are calculating deviation, standard deviation, you are calculating correlation, then these kind of tools generate some or other kind of good result. Like for example, if I am telling you that if let me tell you a good example to this. Like if we are if there are certain things, like if you are reviewing different videos, if you have taken different video interviews, and now you are drawing some result on the basis of those video interviews of different people. You have in that case, generally we use non-parametric test rather than parametric test. What happens in non-parametric test is actually, whenever you are in parametric test, what happens is, whatever sample you draw from the universe, you will find the very same result. In case of non-parametric test, what happens is, you have taken one sample. This one sample will generate one set of tests, one set of results. Then what happens is, if you are drawing another set of sample and you apply the very same test, this second set of sample may generate different results as compared to your first sample group. So this is the reason, this is basically the reason why we generally do not use non-parametric tests. However, the non-parametric tests are something which are like in perception, even in perceptions also nowadays we are using parametric tests. But non-parametric tests are like if you are comparing the emotions, if you are comparing the feelings of different respondents. So in that case, what happens is we use non-parametric tests.
Any other questions?
I feel that now all questions are answered.
Any other questions? So, I think there are no questions. Shall we wind up soon?
Sure, we can.
Thank you, sir. On behalf of IIT Academy, I thank Dr. Samit Dubey, sir, for very interactive, informative, and detailed session, sir. It was an enlightening session, sir. And we thank you once again for the very amazing presentation. And thank you very much for your efforts, sir. And I thank all the participants for joining the session today. Thank you all. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for your efforts. And thank you for spending a valuable time with us, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Kindly fill the feedback form using the link that will be posted in the chat box. Thank you all.
Ma'am, can I sign out now?
Yes, sir. Sure, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Please fill the feedback form using the link that has been posted in the chat box. Thank you all. Ma'am, I have posted the link now. Hope you got it.